Hey guys, 1 week to launch, 1 week to release. I can't believe it. Hopefully you guys are doing well with the book thus far and well underway. We've got 1 week left and it's a beast of a book. So yeah, as promised, I had a few people weigh in with questions, interesting questions, and it was great to see some of you guys wrestling with some of the content. Got to say thank you. So far the feedback has been better than expected, so that's been awesome to see ahead of time. But as expected, some of the points are, well, some of them go quite deep, I think, and some of them take quite a few tangents and turns. So, a superficial one, a couple people asked why the rap. And all I'll say on that is I think that, well, on the one hand, if you're familiar with the Wu-Tang Clan, there was always a bit of undertone of martial arts and, cross comparison about Shaolin Kung Fu and Wu-Tang. So there's a bit of a theme there going on. But, to reference Guy Ritchie, something I heard him say once, which was something along the lines of that all stories are fundamentally the same, which is kind of man's struggle against his environment. And I think that's something that is inherently beefed up in early hip-hop. They were early kind of renegades and rebels, and they spoke truth to power in the only way they could, and fought for their space. And I think that's very much what Grandmaster Flash is trying to do in the story. So, I don't know. Thematically, it just worked for me. Hopefully, it works for you too. But getting into some of the themes, so there's a lot that this book explores, and I'm actually going to not take too long here to try to keep this concise. Hopefully everybody gets in and really reads the material, but there are a few points that I think are worth talking about, and one of them kind of to start at the end. Within the Mastery Scroll, there's a section on uncertainty, which is kind of a flashback and a consolidation of some of the other topics and discussions in the Time Scroll, the Uncertainty Scroll, the Change Scroll, and so on. And this essentially was the discussion of reverse engineering a machine or a car. And the idea is pretty simple, right? So over the last, since I've been doing what I'm doing, I've always had people, put the question in front of me, what do you think about this method? Or what do you think about this martial art or that fitness method or this type of meditation? Or they'll just show me a workout. What do you think about this workout? And my response is almost always the same, or the question is, what do you think about jogging? Or what do you think about running a marathon? I mean, it could literally be anything. What do you think about a stability ball to sit on those things? My question is always the same. So, for who, when, where are you going with it? I mean, a workout and a tool, it's got some activity out here in Vietnam. A workout is a snapshot, right? It gives no information beyond a little bit of structure for itself, but it can't measure itself and it can't ask itself the reflexive question, am I appropriate? For that, you need an assessment of an individual, right? You need a prescription that is accurate to that individual, and you need to know where that person's going, which is what this prescription should do, suit the individual to a path. So the big question is, assuming we can assess ourselves in some form or another, the big question is, where are we going? And that question is almost never asked. And I think that it is important, and I think that it should dictate a lot of what we do, not just in the domain of mind-body development, but in life. And in my opinion, the accurate role of mind-body development is not some weekend hobby or something you do just to make sure that you're kind of staying fit and healthy. It is training for life. It's one of those few domains that deals with the complexity of life, whether or not it's talked about or detailed in that way. It tries to prepare you for what you can't foresee in the future, and it tries to make you more resilient to stress in all facets. Stress with a capital S, right? Not just psychological stress, but mind-body stress, physical stress, the whole spectrum there. And so I asked the question, in that chapter, the Mastery Scroll, similar to what about this workout, but, let's build a car together. What would you want on it? And so, well, some people, a lot of people maybe would say, well, I kind of like F1 racers, or I like SUVs, or I like this kind of car. But I think somebody that maybe steps back for a second would say, well, where do we got to go? Where are we going? I mean, are we going to be on smooth roads? Are we going to be off-roading? Are we going to need super, shock absorption? Are we going to need 2 fuel tanks? Are we going to need bulletproof, the doors? I mean, what kind of environments are we going to be driving through? I mean, if we don't answer that question, I mean, and this, hopefully this is clear, this is a metaphor for performance in life, right? If the degree of stress and activity in your life doesn't exceed the type of dynamism or excitement that you might have driving around your neighborhood in a golf cart, well, you only need a golf cart, right? I mean, you don't need an F1 racer or something that can do well off-road. But if you don't know what kind of roads you're going to go on, you would be absolutely foolish to pick a golf cart. We settle for golf carts all the time, right? That would be the equivalent of allowing ourselves to gain an extra 100 pounds. It would be the equivalent of suffering through an injury. Sorry for the noise. It's noisy here in Vietnam. Be allowing yourself to suffer through an injury for a decade that could be maybe taken care of in a few months. It's allowing yourself to carry the psychological burdens of defeat and low confidence and all the stuff that we tend to carry with us, the pain, the hurt, the anxiety, the fear. We carry this stuff with us every day, and it defeats us and it holds us back, right? These are all the types of things that would be the equivalent of, well, if we want to play in a low, shallow water, if we want to swim in shallow waters or play an easy game in life, well, we don't have to ask those questions. Weightlessness is looking at the big question, right? It's looking at that question where we don't know what we have to face. But if you want to play a big game, if you want an edge and you want to get in there with heavy hitters, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whether it's name your hobby, interest, or career, well, we have some interesting things that start to pop up in the same way that we do if we have to build a car, which is that, well, we don't know exactly what we're going to be facing, but we know we need wheels, right? I mean, we know we need a certain degree of fuel efficiency and horsepower. And these are things that while we can't answer the specifics, right, if we knew that we had to go into a specific type of race, we could be very specific and build a car to purpose. And if you're going to do that, if your thing is marathon running or you want to be a rodeo clown, well, you should prepare for that thing specifically. But whether you do or you don't want to do those things, you don't get away from the fact that our mind and body hardware is the same regardless of where we decide to apply it. So while you might need to emphasize certain things, it's rare that you would say, well, I don't need wheels, right? Given what we know about cars and transportation to date and the fact that we don't really know what kind of environments we're going to be in, that seems like a good idea. And we know what mind-body wheels look like, right? We know that we need strength and stamina. And by strength, it's not just how much weight you can lift in the gym. By strength, we mean the ability to hold physical structure in movement, right? And this is something that comprises posture. It comprises your ability to take and resist certain types of load, mostly your own body weight, but it could be other types of things, moving, picking things up off the ground, moving correctly from one place to another, basic things in life, all the way up to elite performance, right? Meditation, another one of these. I call them pillars, right? But it's a foundational pillar. It's a wheel of the car. It's absolutely essential. And it's not external to you, right? I go into a lot of detail about what meditation is in this book. And within that, I break down its composite parts of concentration and awareness. I talk about what a meditative moment is specifically, how we train and prepare for it, and where it's applied and what it does, right? We could summarize it as the highest quality experience we are capable of. It's something that's not preconditioned or predetermined in terms of our perception. We're not analyzing that experience. We're taking in as much information as possible. It does activate and utilize different brainwave states that actually do allow you to filter is the wrong term, but actually do allow you to take in and receive more data per unit of time than when you're relying on your default mode network, which is what we are 95+% of the time, we're operating from this preconditioned mode of thinking, right? So if you had a conversation, it left you in a bad mood, you meet the same person again, similar patterns pop up, you immediately get triggered. This is exactly what that's about. You're in traffic, somebody cuts you off, you've been cut off before, you're anxious, you're tired, you get pissed off, you get triggered, default mode network. Anytime that you're operating from a preset patterns, values, habits, you're essentially not meditating for one, but you're also not experiencing the moment. You are operating from prejudgments, preconceptions, and it separates you from life. So this is that thing that we need essentially to bypass all the mental baggage that we accumulate, as well as to connect more effectively with the body, the mind-body. So so to sum up that point, and this is the combination of dealing with both uncertainty and our mind-body hardware. This idea that no matter what we're doing, it's the same filtration system, right? The five senses, maybe plus one, right? Thought. But the same senses filter our information. The same hardware interacts with the world. And so we're really looking at this dynamic of how we build the machine that can navigate the uncertainty of our lives. The more we know about that uncertainty, the more specific we can get, but it doesn't preclude the fact that we still will have bumps in the road and we still need to be prepared for those types of things. Enter weightlessness, right? Weightlessness tries to reverse engineer this, and it's what you might call a meta fitness. It's not looking at the specifics of what you need to do in one specific case or domain or hobby or craft. It's looking at the minimum number of things that we need to do in each one of these pillars in the mind-body domain, addressing the mind-body complex, that allows us to be our best, perform our best in all domains, right? So you can have add-ons, you can have software add-ons, but the hardware doesn't change, and that's what we most often neglect and what we need to really focus on cultivating. So this leads me to another point and a great question, which is, in the last book, In Pursuit of Weightlessness, I very quickly summarize, what meditation is, and within that, I think there is one chapter that's one page on how to meditate. That's the whole thing, right? And then in this book, I've got literally 20 pages dedicated to just meditation, at least. Plus, it's constantly integrated, being reworked and reapplied with the other pillars. So the question is, well, if meditation is so easy, and as I put it in this book, if weightlessness is now, if weightlessness is a present phenomenon, well, what's with all the work, right? What's with all the hard work? And that's where this stuff gets a little bit more complex. Because meditation, weightlessness is very simple. It's just not that easy, right? And so what do I mean by... you could use meditation, weightlessness rather interchangeably when you're experiencing either one in the present, right? But essentially we could describe weightlessness as a state of presence, but one also accompanied by a sense of empowerment, a sense of presence, a sense of focus, physical strength and confidence, all the stuff that we would deem kind of our ideal way of approaching any type of experience. And that would be a weightless moment, right? Where we're not bogged down and burdened by all of our other baggage. Where we're not burdened and held back by maybe our physical strength or structure, by our fears, our anxieties, and we're able to face the moment with confidence and grace, right? So it's simple. That's it. Just do that. But it's not that easy, right? So all of us know that when we go on vacation, it might take 3 days to a week before all of a sudden, there's that moment where the shoulders relax, the face relax, all the burdens are gone. And that's because you've removed yourself from all of the stuff that tends to be, oscillating and bouncing around in your mind or stressing you out. And so, and so weightlessness deals with this by looking at what I call the Tao of weightlessness, which looks at this dichotomy between stress and sensitivity. sensitivity is very much that avenue into meditative or weightless moments. It gives us access. When I'm sensitive, I'm feeling, I'm alive, I'm present. And so that is kind of how we access real life. The problem is that the more complex life is, the more uncertainty I face, the more stress I feel, well, it sends me back to that default mode network, and it takes me out of those brainwave frequencies and that state of mind or perception that we could describe as meditative, weightless, sensitive, and alive. And it essentially destroys life. So we need a mechanism that allows us and prepares us for that kind of volatility and that uncertainty. And that's why weightlessness embraces both of these facets to such an extreme, right? Strength and conditioning increases our stress threshold, which means that now, when I'm faced with something that I'm not expecting, something that is throwing me for a curve, throwing a curveball at me, throwing me something I didn't expect, I'm not so unsettled by it. And this could be anything. It could be a bad conversation. It could be physical pain. It could be, loss of a job opportunity. It could be, you name it, right? But it will send you to a dark place where you're ruminating on what you don't have, and you're not looking at the present, you're not considering opportunities. But increasing your stress threshold puts a lot of things in perspective. And I have a line in the book where torture, I mentioned the experiences of Viktor Frankl in concentration camps, and they have examples like that torture has a way of putting things in example very quickly. Well, and so does having a lot of exposure to high stress scenarios and high intensity training. It primes the body and the mind and conditions us for stress of all kinds. These are not localized phenomena that deal only with our physical body. It's a mind-body response and a mind-body kind of development framework. So the more that we are prepared for that, the less it hits us, right? And then on the other side, we need to prepare the mind to actually see and perceive the present, to see and look for opportunities. And so these are two sides of the same coin. And so when I talk about that idea that weightlessness is a momentary, is a present phenomenon, meditation is an immediate phenomenon, it differs in this book where I give such a comprehensive approach and such a comprehensive system. Why? Because of the uncertainty factor, because we don't know the roads that we're going to have to face. We don't know the stresses and pressures and the things that are going to be put in front of us that we're not prepared for. And those things can hit us one of two ways. They can defeat us and break us down, hold us back in life, and keep us plateaued physically or mentally or just life status. Or they can be the fuel that sets us free, right? We can tackle those things and go after those, but a lot of that depends on A, preparation, and B, capacity, right? The capacity to enter the present right here and now. So I constantly talk about in the book that we need to be willing to ask ourselves that question on a regular basis. Am I weightless? Am I weightless? And it's a reflexive question, and it's indicating that if the answer is yes, when am I weightless? The answer is right now. I have this is the only moment that truly exists. When I think about the future, when I plan for the future, when I think about the past, those thoughts and considerations still are present. They happen right now. All of it happens right now. But my ability to be weightless is a present phenomenon, right? So, on the one hand, it takes the hardware that gives me access, the sensitivity that allows me to receive information, beauty, quality in the moment. And at the same time, I need to be resilient to stress so that it doesn't take me out of the moment. But then I need to be willing to ask that question and hold myself accountable to the higher law in this game, which is that, am I doing it, right? It's not just about training. The training doesn't even matter. If you can access a sense of weightlessness today, fantastic, more power to you. It's only that the less we know about the future and the more volatility we have, the more preparation is likely required to be able to face that. It's quite a long-winded response, but hopefully I've talked to several of the points that have come up from people, and hopefully that gives a little bit of the perspective. I mean, the second part of the book, the Scrolls of Weightlessness, go into, I think, a very exhaustive discussion on that, because it's really important to dissect these themes and principles of time, uncertainty, change, transformation, and so on, so that we can actually answer those questions about where we're going and what kind of machine does it take to get us there. And that's kind of the task of the book, if I could sum it up in a short bit. Anyway, guys, 1 week to go. I'm grateful that you are on board with me. I appreciate the feedback and the questions, and that you guys are taking the time to wrestle with this. And we'll really appreciate your support on launch day, launch week as well. So we'll be following up soon. Until then, be weightless and shoot over any other questions you got.